back, everyone, to episode 9 of the Leadership Ignition podcast, brought to you by the Leadership Ignition team, where faith, family, fitness, and finance unite to help you level up your life. I'm Shane Beckham.
And I'm Mike Huff. We're both owners and coaches with the Leadership Ignition team, and we love bringing you stories of transformation that light a fire underneath your own journey. And today we've got one for you.
So today's guest is living proof that no matter where your story is, it doesn't matter where you start, as long as you pull the trigger and get started. So Mike and I first met this guest back in the group that we've talked about a lot before called Battle Ready. He's gone from being morbidly obese to stepping into the world of bodybuilding. So he's built muscle, he's rebuilt his health, and he's even had to face the hard choice of skin reduction surgery along the way.
Yeah, man, what we love about this guy, it's not just physical for him. It's also impacted all of his other F-bombs. He's going to share a little bit more about that with us and his family, faith, and finances. And we're going to dig into the grit, setbacks, and victories with none other than our friend Bailey Hitt.
Hey guys,
Bailey,
thanks for having
my
me.
dude, welcome to the show,
Thanks,
my man.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited.
Well, listen, brother, we've been long-term friends, and so we follow you on Instagram. I love when you tag us. You tag us on, I mean, it's PRs daily for you, which is fantastic, right? So absolutely love that. And, you know, we're seeing you help others too. I know that you've got folks that you're talking to about your journey, and I think a lot of our listeners here are really going to be enthused to learn about, you know, how you did it, why you did it. And, you know, you had to believe in something when you began, right? So we're going to want to rewind the clock a little bit, and we want you to take us back to the before picture first.
So
Sure.
Bailey, let's talk a little bit about that. So when you said, you know, when we say the word morbidly obese, what did that look and feel like for you back then? You know, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally. Can you kind of paint that picture for us about where you were then versus, you know, where you are now?
Absolutely. So back in the day, I think at my heaviest, I was 365 pounds. And the biggest aspect of it, you know, my knees would hurt. That was something that I was thinking about recently. Things I take for granted now, my knees don't constantly hurt. That was a constant issue. Going up a hill was an issue. There were always some aspect of physicality throughout the day that I was having issues with. Health-wise, I was hypoglycemic from a very young age. I had probably pre-type 2 diabetes. I remember I was talking to a doctor and he said, after I lost the weight, he said, "Yeah, man, you're really lucky with genetics." And I said, No, I worked the weight off. You know, I did it myself. And he goes, No, you were genetically gifted that you didn't get diabetes. And that kind of blew me away. So there were a lot of issues. Had gout at a very young age, a lot of different things. So they all started to kind of slowly stack up throughout the years. But I would say the biggest aspect, and it sounds corny, is just the mentality. You know, if you don't think very highly of yourself, in my case, that was my situation, that will wear at you more and more mentally. So that would be the biggest change, would be the mentality of, I can't get the weight off, to, well, now I can do, not only can I do that, but I can do anything. So it's a huge mentality shift.
65 to where are you now, Bailey?
I'm right at, I think, 227. I went down to 202 on the scale, I believe.
Yeah, that's amazing. So now you're building back strength and size and you know, trying to construct it your way, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. When that shift happened, you decided, look, man, I just don't want to live this way anymore. I don't want my knees to hurt. I can't, I don't want diabetes. What were your first steps? Was it nutrition, exercise, mindset? How'd you tackle it?
The first step, funny enough, was I kept thinking, you know, like I need a good role model for what I want to be. And I was watching, I just happened to find the show called The Selection, the Special Operations Experiment, way back in the day. And it was like
So I've seen every episode. You bet.
Incredible. I probably watched that 30 times over. And when I watched it, I remember immediately thinking, these are the type of people that I want to be like the people that made it through, the instructors, all those guys. They just had like grit and stamina to them, and they could keep going. And when I watched the show, to me, that was just life. You know, you have obstacles, you have people saying you can't do something, and then you can do it, or you can choose to believe that you can't do it. And it just all seemed like life. So it seemed very natural the way that they constructed the show. And so I really wanted to be like those guys. I noticed they all had a level of fitness to them, and that was something that I always wanted. And so from there, what I did was I learned that walking was something that I could just kind of basically do. And so I'd walk for about an hour a day at the rate that I could actually walk. And so slowly but surely, I got a little faster. And the first 100 pounds, all I did was just walk and listen to podcasts like consistently. And I really didn't know anything about nutrition. And I tried to go sort of just bare bones with it. I didn't know anything about whole foods, any of that. And I realized, well, if I'm going to cut my calories substantially, I should probably eat real food. And that was the total extent of what I knew about vitamins or anything. And so I just ate less, and then I walked a lot. Once I got down to 100 pounds lost, my metabolism was really shot, because the one thing that I didn't really count on, and I didn't know anything about muscle development or metabolism, I didn't have enough protein. So by the time I got 100 pounds down, my frame was very, very thin. And so while I was healthier and I was substantially better, you know, in the long term, the metabolism was so bad that I realized, okay, we've got to do something here. So that's when I started getting into, well, that's when I got on Battle Ready, which, funny enough, Ray Care had an email blast they would send out occasionally. And I found him after that show because he was on the selection. And then on the email, at the very bottom, it was an inspirational one. On the email, at the very bottom, it says, if you're tired of being fat, click here. And that's all it said. And I clicked on it. It went to Battle Ready, you know, and it had this huge guy, it had Byron on there, you know, the pictures. And I kept thinking, there's no way that I can do this. And then booked a
How
call.
would I ever become that guy, right?
How would I ever become that guy? And then I,
Right.
you know, booked a call, and rest is history. He definitely made me cry a few times in the gym, but it worked out.
He's
So
mean.
he's mean in a loving way.
That's right.
So I wanted to ask you a question. Bailey, I had the privilege of listening to some pretty quality speakers over the weekend, and Bedros happened to be one of them. And of course, for those who aren't familiar, Bedros Killian was the founder of the Battle Ready program, to where we all three met. And one of the things he said resonated with me a lot. Well, there's several things, but something that kind of correlates back to you is, he said adversity is an advantage. And I think a lot about that from your journey is, you were faced with a lot of different emotions, a lot of different feelings, and you had to kind of put yourself in that position to where, okay, I have this adversity facing me right now. And as you entered into that gauntlet, your first initial thoughts was what happens to a lot of us is the limiting beliefs, right? There's no way that I can do this. However, it takes that adversity, the situation that you were in, to refine and reshape yourself into who you are now. And if you don't have that, oftentimes people that don't have those hardships or those journeys, it's very difficult to understand and appreciate what you went through to get to the other side. You walked through your own living version of hell through that fire to get to that other side where you are now. But to your point, it all starts with one vision, one thing you see, one cue that happened to be on an email blast that brought you to where you are today. And it's that easy, right? It's nothing about it's easy. My point is, it's the visual. You already knew you wanted to make the change. You needed something to push you over the cliff. And in your situation, it was one sentence on the bottom of an email. So my question to you and to other people, how many times do we miss that opportunity by just not reading what's in front of us, right? Because you saw the challenge, you knew the adversity it would take and the climb of that mountain that you would get, but you chose to do it anyway. So how did you, what was your first initial thought, I guess, is once you click on the link, you see this Battle Ready program, you see all these jacked and yoked dudes on there, you know, the typical ads, it is what it is. There's no reason that, they're trying to draw you in. But what was your initial thought? You said, okay, I've got this huge amount of weight to lose. I want to actually put on muscle and strength. How did you approach that? What was your initial thought with the call to the program to engage? I'm curious how your initial thought, how you thought this would go.
Oh, can I curse on this? Can I-
Absolutely. The more the better.
I mean, I immediately thought these guys are going to be a bunch of assholes. Like, there's no way. I mean, I saw Byron on there, and I was like, first off, that's not his real name because that's too cool. And secondly, this guy is going to be terrible. And then I had that phone call, and he was like incredibly nice and empathetic, and like saying like, "Oh, congrats on losing the weight," everything. And then I met Nate, exact same thing, super nice, encouraging guy. And so yeah, I mean, the initial the initial thought was I want to be this aspect of these people, but I don't know who they are as people, and I don't want to be someone that's not me, if that makes sense. I don't want to get engulfed into what I thought the fitness industry was, and to a large degree, I mean,
In many cases, it can be if you find the wrong tribe, right?
it can be. It can be. It was very stereotypical, but yeah, I mean, it worked out. To be honest with you, I got really spoiled pretty early on because I met some really quality people and learned a lot. But yeah, that initial leap was terrifying. I was terrified. They pushed me very hard, which was good. But the adversity of losing the weight by myself initially, I think helped springboard me because I knew that I could do that work in the dark without people seeing it, and continued to do that and continued to just keep going. And
So
so it
take that a step
compounded a lot.
further. You had already lost some weight, and you want, now it's time to build muscle and strength. So let's take that back a step. What was your approach when you said, okay, I'm going to the gym now, and I'm going to be lifting, maybe not for the first time, but maybe for the first time in a while. you know, Talk us through about your initial beginning time lifting versus where you're at now. How was that progression? How has your strength changed? Your mindset, nutrition, was it new? What changed? What was the shift?
Sure. The initial, so we worked on core and just overall body weight exercises initially. So it was still too big to do a lot of the compound movements that I do now. So a lot of step ups, a lot of box jumps or attempting to do them, a lot of jumping jacks, push ups, crunches, then eventually moved to dumbbells, then kind of progressed. But there was a lot of adversity initially because I had my first and only really big injury about 2 weeks after I started, where I was doing a step up and I felt something. I didn't know it was a tear at the time, but I felt something and then thought, as everyone does, it's fine. I keep doing it, keep doing it. The next day, wake up, there's a little bit of subdermal bleeding. It turns out I ripped a muscle in my lower back, like to the left, and so I was out for about 3 weeks or so, right when I started the program. So could have easily called it quits there, but I'm too stubborn. I'm too stubborn for that. So the overall progression was body weight, then slowly moving to dumbbells, then more compound barbell movements, and then now I'll do a mix of everything. The nutrition took a lot longer, and from talking to a lot of people, I think that's where a lot of people struggle the most is nutrition. It's a rough one just in the day and age that we live in. You get pizza advertisements every 3 seconds on the TV and whatnot. But that took probably a year to get a decent nutrition plan sorted. And once I did, that's definitely when the gains start coming in a lot more.
Bailey, that's the most important thing we could probably talk about for a minute in terms of people who are trying to make the transformation you made, which was one, start moving. That's what you did. You started walking, you lost 100 pounds. You didn't know anything about macronutrients or total calorie, but maybe basic total calorie stuff, as you mentioned. And you got to Whole Foods, which is awesome. Not the store that'll take your paycheck, but the product of Whole Food. But it wasn't really, I think, is what I'm hearing you say, until you dialed up and got your nutrition properly organized around the macros, proteins, fats, and carbs. We don't have to get a lot more technical than that, right? Within a construct of total calories, that the change happened for you. Same thing for me. That's all it really took for me. I was already working out, but I didn't understand any of that stuff. And we've talked about this before, Shane and I. We've got doctors in our program who don't understand it. That no one's ever been trained it. But once you understand that, you can help other people understand it. That, to me, I think that's where the magic happens. It sounds like that was true for you. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, yeah, I would say the discipline of routine mixed with nutrition and getting a general sleep pattern down
Yeah.
by far.
Also, great point. Sleep, critically important. Great point.
Because water was
So
never really a problem for me. I drink a ridiculous amount of that anyway. So
when you talk about, your nutrition in general is, what I've seen a lot, I know Mike has too, is you have this vision of yourself, and in your mind you think, okay, walking and working out is going to get it done. Well, that's not the reality. It just simply is not. And unless you set that vision on the bigger goal, and you look in that mirror, and I'm curious, I want to tie this back to you, as you're standing in the mirror during these transformation phases, how you see yourself in that mirror really goes a long way towards achieving your goals. Like, if you don't see yourself as who you want to be, it can be a big thing of discouragement. You can get let down. You can say, this is taking too long. Why am I wasting my time? Which is a lot of things. I hear that all the time. What am I even doing? I'm not doing this or that or the other. And I'm like, well, what does your nutrition look like?
Well, and Bailey, before you answer that, we got to make sure people know you're a self-deprecating guy. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out Bailey's Instagram, Facebook. You are hard on yourself, man. So I can't imagine somebody like you having to look in the mirror and be unhappy and not quitting, but having that stick to itness.
yeah, oh man, I wish I could tell you that completely turned off. I think a little bit of it can, I don't want to be like crazy arrogant, look in the mirror and go, and then just, there's a
No.
little bit of me that always wants to fine tune and keep going. And I think that's just with guys, with goals, constantly want to chase things. But yeah, that's a strange one. That's a strange one. I'm very happy with who I am, but I will say something for people that are losing weight. And I try to really harp on this for the two guys that have helped so far. Take pictures as you go, like once a week, like even more than the scale, because the scale, I mean, we all know how the scale can fluctuate so much, but the pictures, being able to look back, because sometimes I get in my own head because this is my reality now. And I think, man, I'm not where I want to be, right? Like I get that. And being able to look back and go, oh, right, this is 2 years of progress. We're still moving forward. Having those little moments where you can kind of redirect your compass based on what you did previously, because it's easy if there's no proof from the past to just kind of forget it. Even if you lost 200 pounds, it's just easy to, in our head, to just go, okay, that was yesterday. Let's keep going. And that's been the biggest help for me, for sure, for sure.
We ask our coaching clients to take pictures too, and we exact same story, right? The idea is that scale's not going to move as fast as you're going to see it in those pictures, and same thing for us. We need to be able to see what you're doing, right? Because look, we give you a macro plan and a calorie plan and a workout plan, and you say you do it, but the pictures will be honest with us more than your recording will be about what you're doing. And some people are nervous about that. And so we tell them, look, it's not to judge you. Our mission is not to judge you. It's to help you. And so we can't help you if we can't see. And if you're doing it on your own, same thing. No one wants to stand in front of I didn't, when I was 275 pounds, stand in front of the mirror and take a picture of my big fat butt. Didn't want to do that. But I'm so glad I did, because then I got to see the progress over time. And then at the end, and there is no end to this journey, as we've talked about, to look back, like you said, and say, whew, look what we did. And we got more to do.
Yeah, go back to my Instagram where I post my weight loss pictures. I'm not smiling in any of those. Like no one enjoys it. No one enjoys it. But it's important.
Comparison is a thief of joy. However, you do need to make the comparison to who you were yesterday. And if you're better than if you're even 1% better than the day before, then you're making that gain. But you have to have that reminder. even though you're reframing, refocusing, and redirecting, you have to remember where you started. And so many people don't do that, which means they don't give themselves enough credit to celebrate the small wins along the way. So it's good to look back. It's okay to look over your shoulder. Just don't do it all the time. Don't be afraid of what used to be back there, but celebrate where you were and where you are now. So I hope that you are able to do that on a higher level now, because you've had an amazing journey so far. All right, so babe, let's talk a little bit about what happens after a major weight loss, which is one of the things that maybe people may not think about now, and as they get ready to make this journey, but it is something that happens. It's something that I was fortunate enough not to have to deal with, but I know you yourself have had to deal with a major issue of having loose skin, and you've been very open about that. You've photographed it. You showed us the progression. So can you walk us through how you came to make that decision? Was that always the plan? If I lose this amount of weight and this happens, that's the route I'm going to go. And maybe just kind of talk us through that, and some of your experiences on that, and what you would or wouldn't recommend for someone else to possibly do there.
Sure, sure. So the skin problem was very surprising to me. So the initial thought was that it would go in and then maybe it would go down a little bit, but it wouldn't be substantial. And it ended up being pretty substantial for me. More importantly, it was causing me health complications. So I had like not to be gross, had like an ingrown hair situation, had to get surgery because of that. And so I realized long term it was just going to be a problem. So most of it wasn't vanity. I think I'd lie if I told you it wasn't part of it, but a lot of it was more medical related. And the process, yeah, of not thinking I was going to need to do that and then realizing that was an important step for me was pretty difficult. I had about a 6 month run up to the surgery. The entire time was just very difficult mentally, especially going into it because I just I chose to go in blind. I didn't really look up a whole lot about it. I knew generally what we were going to do, but some of that stuff has to be decided on the operating table, which is a little terrifying. I'm a very, ones and zeros. I like to have everything written down. I like to know all the stuff. So going into it, the surgeon marking up everything and saying, okay, we're going to have to decide this and this on the table. And I just kind of went, what? Okay. And then just trusting that they can do their job well, and they did, and just letting it happen. But yeah, the run up to it was pretty difficult. I'd say the recovery was extremely difficult. I had built a high pain tolerance, so it wasn't really anything that was too terrible for me. Granted, when you have Byron telling you to do like 500 lunges in one day, that'll bring your pain tolerance up. I never did it. And they gave me a hard time for it. But it was a lot. So it was 3.5. Technically, I think on paper it was like 2 surgeries, but I like to say it was 3.5, because it was abdominal and then all the way around, which is called like a abdominoplasty or something. The middle one, I can't remember the official name. Most people call it a tummy tuck, which I wish I could think of a manlier way to say that, but whatever it is. And then the second one, or the first one, the abdominoplasty, they also worked on my chest, arms, and then brought in my abs and sewed them together. And so all that together all at the same time was a lot on the body. So that took about a month of me being just laying down. I was able, after like 3 weeks, to go into work. I was able to do work from home just because I work on a laptop anyways. And so that wasn't really too much of a problem, but it was a lot. I'm actually kind of at the tail end of the recovery now, and it was back in last August. So we just hit a year, and that's about roughly what they said it was going to take. So there's a lot there, as far as steps for recovery, also the mental aspect of waking up in essentially a new body, because I'd never seen myself when I wasn't morbidly obese. So seeing that after, and then looking, and it, the only expectation I had was tight skin. And somehow in my head, subconsciously, I kept thinking like, oh, I'm gonna look like Michelangelo's the David, right? Whenever I come out, and then I look in the mirror and I go, oh, okay. And that's like a real thing. Like people after these surgeries, no one's fully satisfied with how they look after a surgery like this. There's books written on it. It's just there's subconsciously there's always something there that you want more. And so I would say, you know, if anyone's ever considering it, it can be a lot. And so I couldn't tell someone if they wanted to or not, if they should or not, but just do what's right for you. And, you know, especially if it's for health reasons, I always think that's should be primary.
You know, we tried to stay in contact with you through all of that and just check in on you, check in on your mental health and your physical being. And I mean, you were positive. You're remarkably positive for a guy who was in severe pain and trying to get through it, and then
Those
probably
are the
not.
drugs.
The drugs.
Those are the drugs.
Well,
Yeah.
I will not advertise those drugs to our audience today, but maybe in a future episode. So then so, but the question I had for you about all of that is, you know, look, it could not have been perfect coming off the operating table. It takes time to get everything back in order after all of that. And we see you now, and I would say, you know, from my perspective, you're there, brother. You look great, and hopefully you're feeling the same way. How is getting to the other end of all of that impacting not only your physique, obviously, but also your confidence levels and daily life broadly? Is it helping you?
I would say so. I would say so. It definitely it's something I have to look back at pretty often because like we were talking about before, it's so easy to be planning forward and working in the present that I can forget that some of that stuff, you know, the strides that I made along the way for it. But yeah, I would say it's definitely helped me from a health perspective. Oddly enough, it's helped me a lot mentally and physically. I think there was a lot of mental to go through, just kind of accepting everything afterwards. But it's definitely helped confidence wise. It's helped with that. I feel, and this is something that I've never felt before. Like I would never have been able to wear a t-shirt and feel comfortable, like ever. And so that was to this day when I put on a t-shirt, I'm like, oh, this is crazy. Yeah. So it's helped quality of life, like day to day, has helped dramatically. And I'm not saying, you know, I'm like have the confidence of a Olympian, but it's definitely improved it a lot.
That's great, man.
It's amazing to hear. So let's tie a little bit of this back to the 4F bomb framework that we like to navigate in, and we'll touch on a few. What about now that you've gone through all this physical change? You've got a lot of self confidence back. You've had the surgery. Everything's clicking in the direction that we know that you wanted to go in. So, what has this done for you, regarding your family aspect? How has the transformation that you've been through changed the way that A, you show up for them, or B, they show up for you? What is the dynamic that's changed by simply making this decision to better yourself? How has that impacted your family, chemistry?
Definitely, definitely. There were there was a large amount of support during the surgery and after, which was something that I never really thought about. So we all definitely grew closer after that. And we did before as well, but I would say I'm definitely closer to my family after that. It was it was pretty amazing how much they cared and supported me through that whole process. We've been pretty close for a while, and so we all keep in touch regularly. And since we're all in the same town, for a lot of us, at least, it helps a lot. So we definitely all try to keep in touch together and stay connected.
It's great, man. In that small town, in case anyone's looking for Bailey, is Tupelo, Mississippi. So
There it is.
hunt him down, see if he can help you. So, what about your faith? Did this process impact your beliefs, gratitude, your general outlook on life?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. The whole process of weight loss, I would say, strengthened my why. I'm very religious, and I mean, none of this could have been done without God, like by far, by far. Not to say that I'm, some perfect guy that has a perfect relationship with God. I'm not, but he got me through all the tough times, and it sounds silly, but being hungry for 4 years will really get to you. So he was definitely my rock during that. So it's only strengthened. I still have my own tests and trials now, but things are very strong in the faith department.
You said something there I want to tap into. Take me back before your weight loss journey even began. How many calories you think you ate a day?
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out not that long ago. Here was a typical day in college. Okay, so I would drink about half a fifth a day or a fifth a day on the weekend. Actually, that's not true. Probably every other day worth would be like half a fifth. So that's substantial, whatever that would be. My meals, I would have 2 or 3 fast food meals that were substantial. So I would say at least 5,500, 6,000
Did
calories.
you think you were eating that much food, that many calories?
I had no idea.
So,
Before I started tracking my food, yeah.
yeah, so take me now. What's your current split? What's your current macro set?
I think I'm on a cut right now. It's 2,200 for the calories. I think we're roughly 40, 30, 30, like 40% protein, 30 and 30 on fat and carbs.
So, would you say now that you have settled into the nutrition protocol and you've been in it for some time now versus back then versus now, a lot cleaner eating, a lot better food decisions, do you find yourself more satisfied longer with your food? Are you still hungry? How how does that look for you? I'm curious how taking that mindset from where you were before. Sometimes I feel like people eat just to be eat because they're bored, but to now where it's much more of a refined process because I know we all get hungry when we get into cuts and things like that. But how is your current energy level now that you've gone through this transformation? Your hunger and your overall I can't think of the freaking word that I'm trying to say, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, satiety has
There you go.
been, yeah, has been,
Maniacal.
it's it's been
Mm.
pretty solid. Like you're saying in a cut, I'm sort of always a bit hungry, but most of the time I'm a little hungry, and that's actually been good. It's been nice to see that my body's actually using the food, and absorbing and going through all the energy processes. So I'm I would say I'm full afterwards a lot longer. I still have that part in me, whatever it is, probably just from binge eating for so long, where I could keep going. Like I could definitely just keep going. And so sometimes I have to kind of calm myself down there. But overall, energy levels, I mean, impossible to connect. I mean, that would be from like level 1 to level 500. You know, I can do a lot more for a lot longer. I can, not that I would ever recommend this, but I could get 3 hours of sleep one day just due to life events and still be able to go. Back then, if I had less than 7 or 8 hours, I couldn't do anything. I mean, I couldn't even operate. So, yeah,
So
yeah,
my point to all of that is you may be a little bit hungry in a cut, but the way that you're fueling your body now and the way that we can properly fuel ourselves, A, it's not that hard. It's really not once you understand it. And B, you said 1 to 500. That's a massive change. And people get lost in the weeds and think this is something challenging, daunting, and difficult. Now, I'm not saying that it's easy. That's not where I'm headed here. However, once you break through and start to really understand the benefits and how that you feel, man, it's like coming up out of the valley and you're already standing on top of the mountain. Like you have the sun's hitting you in the face, and you're like, I feel freaking fantastic. And
Well, And Shane, it ain't easy, but as we said a million times, it is simple. The hard part is getting away from your old habits, your old behaviors, your old thought processes, right? But the work to be done is simple. It's calories in, calories out, maybe a little distribution control, and it's movement, right?
It's just like
It's, you know,
it's like what he does for a living. Inputs equals the outputs, man. And
that's
that's
it.
human life. That's data entry. That's IT. That's airports. That's paving. That's gyms. Doesn't matter what you're talking about. It's the same thing. Your inputs equal the outputs. And when you start putting in better, I tell people on the floor, your body's like a Ferrari, man. You're gonna put junk. You're gonna put shit fuel in a Ferrari. No, you're gonna put the best fuel that it can possibly take because it's a high performance machine. Well, why don't you treat your body the same way?
Well, and I
It's
love the
crazy to me.
analogy of, think about your body like the only car you're ever going to be able to own. What's it going to look like at 2 million miles? You better figure that out when you're at 50,000.
Yeah, the check engine light, man. You can't just ignore it when you're a human being.
That's right.
Or you could like I did for a while, and then it just stacks and stacks, and then
Well,
eventually
you're
your
right.
engine's like,
But then you got to get a little bondo.
Yeah, they're just like this perfect segue you'll like. It's like compounding interest, which moves us into the next point. See what I did there, Mike?
I love it.
Uh, so talk about finances. We've talked about some of the other F bombs. We know what it did with your family. Now we've talked a little bit about your faith, and then we just kind of segued into what it did with your fitness and nutrition. So what about finances? Finances can be, a lot of different things, but Mike and I talk about this a lot. Fitness is an investment. And we're talking about that. It's funny that this was our next point because whether we want to say it or not, when you are physically fit, for whatever reason, more opportunities can and will come your way. It's just, I don't have any studies to back that other than we see it happen all the time because it opens a lot of doors. So has this, since you have, and I'm not just saying because of how you look, it's your whole mindset. Don't misinterpret what I'm saying. It's the mindset shift along with how you look and then how you're perceived by other human beings. That's just human nature. So since you've gone through this process, has there been any other career opportunities, coaching possibilities, or just a shift in how you view money in your journeys? Like I want to start doing this, or has anything changed in the finance F bomb?
yeah, definitely a shift on how I viewed money. I was fairly stable as far as the money thing after the first 100 pounds, because before then I basically blew all my money on fast food, and that was back when it was even cheaper than it is now. I went to, where was it? I went to Starbucks. Can I mention specific
Yeah,
companies
for
on it?
sure.
I went to Starbucks and got some egg whites, and I can't remember how much it was. The egg bites, which are great, but they were like, I think two of them together was like $15. It's like, geez, I could just go buy a carton of eggs and just, Anyways, yeah, it's definitely helped that. I think I've gotten more well, I know I've gotten more ambitious when it comes to wanting to make sure that my resources go into the right places. I'm a lot more disciplined. I already had some systems there, but I'm able to lock in a little bit more. And I have better ideas on what to spend my money on. So now when I have like spending money, most of the time I just want to spend it on like improving my health. So most of it still goes to like responsible things, but the responsible things are enjoyable. So that's mostly how the mindset's changed. And of course, like everyone else, I'm like, I should start a business. That's a general thought that I always have. But overall, definitely ambition's gone up 100%.
Well, we've had a couple of conversations about ways that you could improve income sources as well, and I don't know if you would have been thinking about that with the Old Bailey, right? So to see just your mind change and to think about, how do I drive different outcomes for myself and my family long term is just really great to see, and I think it does come from the confidence you're gaining and all the other things you're learning about self discipline through this process. So let's get to some takeaways for our listeners. You've been there, you've lived it, you've done it. What are some actionable things? What are three things that our listeners could do if they're feeling like, man, I've got to make a life change? And how do they start in their own transformation?
Boy, no pressure. I would say, trying to think of what I've helped with. I helped one guy lose 100 pounds, and he did it
Amazing.
pretty easily.
Good for you. Good for him.
Good for him. Yeah, yeah. I mean, he put in the work 100%. The biggest thing I think, so we're in such a processed food world, and because those drugs are so powerful, and I do mean that processed foods are drugs. I mean, they're insanely addictive. I don't think it's realistic to get somebody that's on 100% processed food diet and eating out diet to go straight to whole foods. For a lot of people, it can really make them just crash because they think they can't do it. And anyone who thinks that processed foods aren't drugs, get off of them for 2 days and see how your mind feels. Because I can remember exactly what happened to me when I went. So the first thing that I would say is start off a little slow, learn how to track food, learn how to track the food that you're currently having. And then when you figure out what calories you need to have in order to lose weight, have a bit of what I call healthy junk food. It's not like 100% healthy and it's not 100% junk food, but if I want a candy bar, I could have a Quest bar that has 20 grams of protein, and it's a little bit better. It's going to have a bit better of the situation going, and you'll have more satiety afterwards. So, from a health perspective, I do think that for a lot of people, weaning off is important if they're having to do this long term. The other aspect, and most of it, y'all talked about all this before, but movement. Movement is medicine. I believe that walking solves a lot of problems, not just that, but mentally. I can tell you I've had some of the best ideas ever just on a walk. So getting out and just getting sunlight and walking. Mindset would be the third one. And then also, your circle influences your mindset more than many of us realize. I know that's constantly the case for me. I am the people I surround myself with to a certain degree. And so having the mindset of I can do this, it just may take longer than I expected, but good things take a while, great things take longer, right? So if you want to do anything great, it's going to take a while and there's going to be some level of sacrifice to it, but that's what makes it worth it. And getting the right friends that are going to support you in that journey and having your family on board makes a huge difference. And I would say it's kind of a requirement to have some sort of support system of people that are willing to talk you through and remind you of how far you've gone, because a lot of people aren't going to notice their changes after a while. And so for somebody to come up to you and say, hey man, I saw you walking 2 miles the other day, you couldn't even go half a mile when you started. You know, that's huge. That's a huge perspective change. Or someone sees how you're eating and they say, "Oh, that's fantastic, man. Good for you." Which that one can be a little harder. It depends on where you live. But I know in the South we love our butter and our fried chicken. So, you know, the buffet style of endless fried chicken may make it difficult, but there's plenty of people out there that are willing to support you. Get involved with the gym. There are a lot of really solid people there. Any gym is going to have people that are going through something similar with you. And I can tell you when I started going to this gym, and the gym that I go to is a legit like bodybuilder gym, and there's all sorts of people in there, not just bodybuilders, but it's pretty intimidating to walk into. I walked in there. The first guy that I talked to was huge. Went over to him and said, I have no idea how to use this machine. Can you help me out? And then he turns around, he looks like really scary because he was just like in the middle of a pump. He turns around and he goes, oh yeah, man, here, let me show you. And then he goes over there and he shows me everything. And everybody's always been extremely supportive. So I highly recommend getting involved with the gym just for the community aspect, even if you're not necessarily looking to use it a whole lot, because you can find a lot of really great friends there and it helps along the way 100%.
I couldn't agree more. And I think, first of all, I'm glad I'm in your circle or you're in my circle. I'm not sure which way I can invite myself into that group and all three of us together. But what the one thing that was most surprising for me on my journey, and I'd like to hear your thoughts about this, is that circle in particular. A lot of people who I thought would have been fully behind me, who cared about me physically, mentally, whatever, part of my family or my friends. And I think they still do. but they were the biggest naysayers about what I was trying to get accomplished and how I was doing it. And I'm being too strict and I'm not doing this and I'm not stretching enough and I'm not, there are all kinds of, and can you really sustain this that long? And then the people who I found who I never had met in my life, people like you and Shane and other folks that we all know, were way more supportive and way more engaging and trying to help each other get there. And people in the gym who were big, scary dudes that I didn't want to talk to when I first walked in, for sure. Right now, we're like gym buddies. But so did it surprise you who was in your corner and who wasn't during that cycle?
Yeah, 100%. It never ceases to amaze me because I think what happens is generally one. I don't know about you guys, but I said about 10,000 times that I was going to lose weight and I didn't.
Yes.
I lost. I mean, I failed seriously probably 10,000 times before I got it right. And so there was a certain aspect of that where my family's like, okay, all right. So it took a little while, like I had to prove that I was going to do it. Right. I think there's a part of that, but also there are some people that definitely, once you start changing in a positive way, and maybe, and personally, I think it's an insecurity thing. I think some people look and say, well, they're doing really well in this area. I may not be, and then they say something mean or whatever. I'm sure there's a lot of reasons, but yeah, it never ceases to amaze me. I met a guy that was a huge, bulky dude, and we went rucking together, and nicest guy, and we had the deepest philosophical conversations, and was the most supportive guy ever. And then I've met some people that were the exact opposite, but generally they weren't in the gym. It's just kind of strange. Like it's the exact opposite stereotype that I expected from the fitness community. Hopefully that answered that. That was a little ranty.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. It helps explain how you felt through that process as well.
So Bailey, back to the social media aspect of it. You talked a little bit about the positive reactions from having the right circles and the right things, and also how you found your journey, and quite frankly, how I found mine. So, how can social media, with all the bad and everything else that's involved in it, how can that be a positive thing? How can someone make that be positive and use it to their advantage?
Yeah, one of the best things that I learned from, I think it was from Bedros. I think it's from Bedros Koulian mentioned this, was that leveraging social media with your inner circle is very, very useful. So what I like to do, anyone that goes on there onto my profile, they'll see a story pretty much every day. And whenever I finish a workout, I'll take a screenshot of some sort of proof that I did it and put it on there. But what you don't see is I put tags for people that are in my circle that I talk to frequently, and I drag it off screen so you can't see it, but I'm tagging these people and saying, hey, here's a win for today. And a lot of the other people also do that, tag me. And so we keep the momentum going of just constantly encouraging each other. So it's been a really neat thing to see how we can all encourage each other on that space. And it keeps it a little more positive on social media for once, so it makes it fun.
No, absolutely. I love that. I love doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Love seeing your wins too.
Thanks, man. You too.
Yeah, listen, Bailey, you've been awesome. Your story is fire. We love you, and so thanks for coming on the podcast, man. And you guys heard this is not just about losing weight; it's about gaining life in every F-bomb category.
Absolutely, Mike. And if this lit a spark for you, go follow Bailey on Instagram. He'd love to see you. He'd love to chat with you. Make sure you find him at not Bailey Hitt, which I do love. That is his handle. It is actually him. So go follow Bailey and check out his journey. Go back and look at what he's posted and see the remarkable transformation that he has put himself through resilience and adversity and pushing past it. You know what? He, to his point earlier, if you surround yourself with, quality stories of people that have been in your exact same spot and pushed ahead, guess what? You plant that little seed. It can be done. I can also do this too. Just like you said earlier, you surround yourself with five drinkers, you're going to be the sixth. You surround yourself with five people with positive mental attitudes, you're going to become the sixth one that can follow in those same footsteps.
So let's just say thanks to Bailey and goodbye. Thanks a ton, Bailey. Great to have you on the show.
Thanks, guys. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on. I'll keep tagging you and annoying you with the. No, please do. We love it. We love it. And remember, team, your transformation starts with a decision. Commit, follow through, and don't give yourself an out. And remember, the decision is just the first part. Then you got to jump off the log.
Absolutely right. Well, Mike, let's put a big old bow on this episode of the Leadership Ignition Podcast. My apologies. And until next time,
Let's get lit. Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership Ignition Team podcast. Go to our website at www.leadershipignitionteam.com to subscribe to our weekly newsletter, engage with us, and find again favorite podcast networks, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube.